The greatest betrayal is not committed by enemies, but by those born to serve. In the shadow of forgotten knowledge, beneath the memories of mortal men, lies a tale whispered only by those who dare to seek truth in darkness. Before there was a Dragonborn of legend, before the songs of Tiber Septim, or the prophecies of Alduin's return, there was Miraak, the first to bear the blood and soul of dragons. But destiny weaves cruel patterns. The first was also the first to fall. Miraak did not merely wield the voice, he mastered it when others could barely comprehend its power. Where dragonkind ruled with ancient might and terrible fire, one mortal priest rose from among their servants, touched by the same celestial force that gave dragons their dominion. His thu'um did not echo theirs. It challenged them, and for this, the world forgot him. Until now, welcome to Tales of Tamriel. Subscribe now to unlock the forbidden knowledge that even the dragons feared. The first Dragonborn. When dragons ruled the world, men were but whispers beneath their wings. The Merethic era, a time when mortality itself bent knee to scaled divinity. The Isle of Solstheim, covered not in ash but in reverence, stood as one of many altars to draconic dominion. Here walked Miraak, a priest among priests, his eyes cast ever upward at his masters circling in flame-scorched skies. But some vessels are not meant to contain ordinary spirits, born to the dragon cult that stretched its influence. Across ancient Atmora and into Skyrim's frost-bitten reaches, Miraak's path seemed predetermined. Like his brethren, he was taught to revere the dragons as gods, to speak their tongue with imperfect mortal lips, to carry their will to the cowering masses. His hands built temples while his voice sang praises. His blade silenced those who would question the rightfulness of scaled dominion. Yet something within him resonated differently when dragon speech touched the air. Where other priests struggled for years to learn simple words of power, Miraak absorbed them as though remembering, rather than learning. The draconic syllables, fus, yol, kree, flowed through him as naturally as blood through veins. This was no mere talent. This was inheritance. The dragon priests whispered behind stone masks. His fellow servants watched as dragons themselves began to notice the mortal who spoke with uncommon authority. Some said Akatosh himself had touched Miraak's soul, spilling divine essence into mortal form. Others claimed darker forces had marked him before birth. But none could deny what became increasingly clear. When Miraak spoke, the world itself listened. On a night when aurora lights painted Solstheim's skies, Miraak learned truth. Alone atop the highest spire of his temple, he faced the ancient Dragon Krell. What began as ritual prayer transformed when the dragon's fire came for him not in blessing, but in rage-fueled challenge. Some perceived threat, some whisper of prophecy had reached the worm's ears. The fire came, and Miraak did not burn. Instead, his voice cracked like thunder across the night. Yol Tur Shul! Not mimicry, mastery, not worship, dominance. Fire met fire, and for the first moment in recorded history, a dragon stepped back from a mortal in something resembling fear. That night, Miraak understood. The blood in his veins carried more than life. It carried destiny. The dragon souls were kindred to his own. He was Dovahkiin, Dragonborn, not merely blessed to use their language, but born to consume their very essence. A mortal with the soul of a dragon, the ultimate contradiction to the natural order. Power changes perception. As Miraak walked the halls of his temple in days following, the whispers changed. His fellow priests bowed lower, their devotion tinged with unease. Dragons circled more frequently overhead, watching. He was both miracle and abomination, elevated and condemned by the same gift. The dragon cult had never prepared for this, a servant with the potential to become master. For despite his continued observance of ritual and tradition, something had fundamentally shifted. When Miraak spoke, dragons listened. When he commanded, mortals trembled. Power filled the space between his words, and ambition filled the silence of his thoughts. Knowledge became his hunger. If his soul contained this hidden inheritance, what other secrets might the world conceal? What limits could be transcended? What barriers broken? The dragons guarded their wisdom jealously. But Miraak had tasted something beyond their teaching. And once you have tasted godhood, how can you ever again be satisfied with prayer? As snowfall blanketed Solstime's ancient stones, Miraak's prayers became less frequent, his questions more pointed. His gaze, once reverently downcast before dragon masters, now met their ancient eyes with uncomfortable directness. The first Dragonborn had awakened to his nature, and awakening is the first step toward rebellion. The fall into Hermaeus Mora's grasp. Knowledge is never innocent. It beckons with promises of enlightenment while concealing the chains it forges around the seeker's soul. Miraak's quest began innocently enough, a thirst to understand the power flowing through his veins. The dragons offered him reverence now, but not answers. They spoke of his gift as though it were both blessing and obscenity, something to be utilized but never discussed. Their ancient eyes watched him with newfound wariness, as one might watch a flame near dry timber. The deeper chambers beneath his temple, long sealed by dragon decree, called to him. Forbidden knowledge always sings the sweetest melodies to those with the power to wield it. Under moonless night, he descended, past the ceremonial chambers where worshippers gathered, beyond the inner sanctums where priests performed their rites, down to where the very air felt thick with ancient whispers. Here, the dragon cult kept its oldest relics, its darkest texts. Knowledge deemed too dangerous for even their most devoted servants. Among dusty tomes and forgotten artifacts, Miraak found it, a book bound in material no mortal hand had crafted. Its cover seemed to shift and pulse like something alive yet not alive, its pages filled with script that moved when not directly observed. The Black Book. Not of dragon origin, but something older, something other. When he touched it, the world around him bent. Reality peeled away like skin from a burn, revealing a realm of twisted corridors, poisonous seas, and knowledge suspended in caustic air. Apocrypha, the realm of Hermaeus Mora, Daedric prince of fate, knowledge and memory. A domain built not of stone and soil, but of secrets and forbidden truths, where every whisper is preserved and every thought catalogued. "You seek what the winged masters withhold," came the voice, not spoken but somehow impressed directly upon Miraak's consciousness. It emerged from everywhere and nowhere, 1,000 eyes watching from between the fabric of space itself. "I offer what they fear to give." Hermaeus Mora did not appear as entities of Mundus do. He manifested as a writhing mass of tentacles and eyes, a formless horror that defied mortal comprehension. Yet to Miraak, this abomination offered something the dragons never had: recognition of his potential, and the promise to fulfill it. "The Dova believed themselves gods," the prince continued. "But I have watched gods rise and fall like tides. I have catalogued their births and extinctions. I know what you are, Miraak, and what you may become. The bargain was never explicitly stated. Such is the way of Daedric princes. They offer, suggest, imply, and by the time one realizes the price, the debt is already owed." Miraak was granted access to Apocrypha's endless libraries, to knowledge beyond mortal understanding. In return, he became something other than just the first Dragonborn. He became the first servant of Hermaeus Mora. Each night, while his body remained in Nirn, his consciousness wandered obsidian corridors lined with forbidden texts. He learned of dragons not as gods but as entities with beginnings and potentially endings. He discovered shouts never meant for mortal understanding, Most dangerously, he learned the ultimate dragon's secret, that he could not merely kill dragons, but devour their very souls, absorbing their power and knowledge. By day, he performed his duties as dragon priest with mechanical precision, but his eyes had changed. Those who served under him noted how he sometimes seemed to look through them rather than at them, as though seeing layers of reality others could not perceive. His speech became laced with references and terms no one recognized. Fragments, from languages lost to time or perhaps never meant for Mundus at all. The dragons sensed the change. Ancient entities have ancient wisdom, and they recognized the taint of oblivion upon their once faithful servant. Yet their pride prevented direct intervention. To acknowledge Miraak's growing threat was to acknowledge their own potential vulnerability. Instead, they watched and waited. Miraak's temple transformed subtly under his direction. New chambers excavated, strange symbols carved into stone foundations, rituals modified with elements no other dragon priest recognized. Power flowed into Solstime's stones. Not draconic power, but something darker, something hungrier. When he spoke the dragon tongue now, it carried undertones that made even dragons uncomfortable. His Thuum had become infected with apocryphas, essence, knowledge and domination intertwined. Those who heard it felt not just its power, but its wrongness. The final transformation came when Hermaeus Mora gifted him with the forbidden shout, "Bend will." Not merely a tool to command beasts or men, but a fundamental corruption of reality itself. A Thuum that could bend not just flesh but spirit, not just action but intention. This was no dragon gift. This was Daedric intervention in its purest form. Miraak stood at his temple summit, mask gleaming in the cold light of Solstime's aurora, his robes now inscribed with symbols that made observers' eyes water. He was no longer simply the first Dragonborn. He had become the bridge between draconic power and Daedric knowledge, a conduit for forces that should never have merged. And within him grew the most dangerous seed of all, the belief that he was destined not to serve either dragons or Daedric princes, but to master them both. The rebellion and the lock. Revolution begins not with armies, but with a single defiant word. On the day Miraak spoke his first word of rebellion, the skies above Solstheim darkened, as though Mundus itself sensed the coming upheaval. For millennia, dragons had ruled through fear and divine right. Their priests spread their will, their cults enforced their dominion. The natural order, they claimed. The strong rule the weak, the immortal command the fleeting. But what happens when the servant discovers he carries the same divine spark as the master? It began with one dragon. Ancient texts do not preserve its name. Perhaps deliberately erased, perhaps forgotten in the chaos that followed. Miraak approached not in supplication but in challenge. No longer masked, he stood bare-faced before the worm, his eyes reflecting something the dragon had never seen in a mortal: recognition, not of superiority, but of equality. "You are not gods," Miraak proclaimed, "merely the firstborn of Akatosh, and I am of your blood." The dragon's response was predictable: fire and fury. Its mistake was believing Miraak still feared death. When the flames cleared, Miraak stood unburned, wreathed in protective magics learned in Apocrypha's twisted halls. His voice cracked like thunder across Solstime's black earth. "Z los D, do, soul devour," a shout not taught by dragons but by their enemy. The dragon perished not just in body, but in essence. Its soul, its immortal power flowed into Miraak like water into parched earth. Those who witnessed it, other priests, worshippers, even circling dragons, beheld a fundamental violation of the natural order. A mortal, consuming divinity. Word spread like wildfire across dragon territories. Some of his fellow priests, long harboring secret resentments against their masters, flocked to his banner. Others, devoted to tradition and hierarchy, sought to destroy him. Solstime's black soil drank deep of blood, dragon, priest, and follower alike. With each dragon, soul consumed, Miraak's power grew. His voice could now shatter stone, command minds, and bend reality itself. Dragons who had ruled unchallenged since time immemorial now knew fear. They came not one by one, but in terrible congress, wings darkening skies, their combined thuum enough to split mountains. The battle scarred Solstheim forever. Where once stood verdant forests, only ash remained. Where villages had prospered, only foundations survived. Miraak's temple, reinforced with both draconic and Daedric magic, stood as the last bastion of rebellion. Yet even as dragons fell to his voice, Miraak's success carried the seeds of his undoing. For Hermaeus Mora watches all, catalogues all. The Daedric prince had granted knowledge to Miraak not from benevolence, but from calculated investment. Every dragon soul devoured, every victory won brought Miraak closer to true godhood, and further from being a useful servant. As the final battle approached, with legions of dragons circling the temple, and loyal dragon priests marshalling ancient magics against their renegade brother, Hermaeus Mora acted. Not against the dragons, but against his own champion. The betrayal came without warning. As Miraak prepared to unleash his ultimate thuum against the assembled dragon host, reality around him shifted. The stones of his temple melted away, replaced by the caustic atmosphere of Apocrypha. His physical form, drawn across the boundaries, between realms, stood now not on Nirn, but in the dominion of the Daedric prince. "You have served your purpose," came the voice of thousand eyes. "Knowledge given becomes knowledge owned. You are mine now, first Dragonborn." The dragons, finding their enemy vanished at the moment of confrontation, claimed victory. The survivings, rebel priests, were executed. The temple sealed. The very name of Miraak struck from record and song. But in Apocrypha, time has no meaning. Flesh does not age, hunger does not consume, death does not release. Miraak found himself neither victor nor vanquished, but something infinitely worse: preserved. A living artifact in Hermaeus Mora's collection. A curiosity to be studied, an example to be shown to future seekers of forbidden knowledge. The first Dragonborn had rebelled against his first masters, only to fall eternal prisoner to his second. And there, in timeless imprisonment, his rage and ambition crystallized into something beyond hatred, into purpose. The return from the pages. Time passes differently for those trapped between worlds. For Miraak, millennia flowed like viscous ink across Apocrypha's endless pages, present in every moment, absent from all. 4 eras turned in Mundus, empires rose and fell, dragons vanished, then returned. The land itself changed. Solstheim, once part of Skyrim's mainland, torn away by Red Mountain's fury to become an ashen island in Morrowind's shadow. Yet across this vast expanse of time, one constant remained: Hermaeus Mora's patient collection of knowledge, secrets, and souls. The Daedric Prince of Fate had not forgotten his prized possession, merely shelved him until the proper moment. That moment came with the return of dragons to Skyrim in the 201st year of the Fourth Era. With Alduin's resurrection came ripples across reality, ancient prophecies activating, dormant magic awakening. The emergence of a new Dragonborn, the last Dragonborn, sent tremors through the cosmic fabric that even Daedric princes could not ignore. Miraak felt it first, a resonance, like recognizing one's reflection in strange waters. Another mortal with the blood and soul of dragons walked Nirn. Another potential vessel of ultimate power threatened both draconic rule and Daedric plans. In the shifting corridors of Apocrypha, Miraak stirred. His consciousness, stretched thin, across countless tomes and scrolls, began to coalesce. His will, tempered by an eternity of imprisonment, focused with renewed purpose. His voice, unused for centuries, remembered the syllables of power. Hermaeus Mora watched, as Hermaeus Mora always watches. The Prince of Knowledge understood opportunity when it manifested. Two Dragonborns, the first and potentially the last, presented a unique experiment, a test of wills, of power, of fate itself. The time approaches, the prince whispered across the poisonous seas of his realm. When dragon meets dragon, when Thuum meets Thuum. Will you seize your chance, first Dragonborn? The offer didn't need specification, freedom, or at least a path to it, in exchange for proving himself against this new Dragonborn. Victory would mean escape from Apocrypha's clutches. Defeat would mean, well, what could be worse than eternal imprisonment? Miraak began his return slowly, methodically. First, through dreams and whispers that reached sleeping minds across Solstheim. The weak-willed became his first servants, digging at his ancient temple, unearthing artifacts long buried. Those who found the Black Books, gateways to Apocrypha, scattered across Tamriel by Hermaeus Mora's design, became unwitting conduits for his influence. The Allmaker stones, sacred to Skal shamanism, became his anchors to reality. Through them, his power leached back into the physical world, corrupting, converting, preparing. More and more of Solstheim's inhabitants fell under his thrall, their minds no longer their own, their hands working tirelessly to fulfill the will of a master they had never seen. Here in my temple, here in my shrine, that you have forgotten. The chant spread across Solstheim like a fever dream, mouthed by vacant-eyed thralls as they labored at mysterious structures around the island. The words were both prayer and proclamation, both summons and warning. In Skyrim, the last Dragonborn's power grew with each dragon soul consumed. Just as Miraak had done thousands of years before, this new vessel of Akatosh's blood walked the path of increasing power. But with each dragon slain, a strange sensation, a momentary dissonance, a feeling of something being taken. For Miraak had discovered a terrible truth during his imprisonment, that his connection to dragonkind transcended physical presence. When dragons died near his sphere of influence, he could reach across realities and claim a portion of their souls, even from another Dragonborn. Do you know that I can absorb dragon souls too? He taunted through dreams and visions. It's how I've stayed alive for thousands of years. As the last Dragonborn's fame spread, as the dragons fell to this new hero's Thuum, Miraak's strength returned proportionally. Each soul divided became power multiplied. The boundary between Apocrypha and Nirn thinned where his influence was strongest. Hermaeus Mora watched with the patience of eternity, his countless eyes blinking in cosmic amusement. Two champions, unknowingly serving the same master. Two paths, seemingly opposed yet leading to the same destination. Knowledge would be served. Fate would unfold. And on Solstheim, the final pieces were being positioned. The temple neared completion. The conduit between worlds strengthened, and Miraak's presence grew tangible enough that the very air around his shrine seemed to vibrate with suppressed power. The stage was set for the confrontation centuries in the making. The first Dragonborn versus the last. A battle not just of power, but of purpose, of what it truly means to bear the blood of dragons in mortal flesh. Miraak versus Dragonborn, the last will. When gods wage war, mortals are but collateral. The confrontation between first and last was inevitable. Two souls of the same divine spark, two vessels of the same cosmic power, two sides of the same prophetic coin. One preserved beyond time, one born at time's culmination. Neither truly understood they were players in a game far older than dragons themselves. Apocrypha's twisted landscape became their battlefield. Not by chance, but by design. Hermaeus Mora's realm provided the perfect arena for what was less, a battle between mortals, and more a cosmic principle resolving itself. Miraak waited at the summit of Apocrypha, his form both physical and metaphysical, his power swollen with thousands of years of accumulated knowledge and dozens of dragon souls. His mask, once symbol of the dragon cult, now represented defiance against all masters. And so the first Dragonborn meets the last Dragonborn at the summit of Apocrypha. His words carried no fear, no anxiety, only cold certainty. For Miraak had seen this moment in 1,000 visions across his imprisonment, had prepared for it through centuries of patient plotting. May he be rewarded for his service as I am. The irony was not lost on either combatant. Service and reward. The eternal cycle of power. Miraak had served dragons, then Hermaeus Mora. The last Dragonborn had served the Greybeards, the Blades, the people of Skyrim. Both had been used as instruments of greater wills. Their battle transcended physical combat. Each shout tore at the fabric of Apocrypha itself. Fus Roda against Vengar Nos. Force against wind. Domination against freedom. Past against future. When their voices clashed, spectral dragons manifested. Echoes of souls consumed, now forced to serve one final purpose. The very air between them rippled with paradox. Two beings who should not coexist in the same reality, yet both equally legitimate inheritors of the same divine bloodline. It takes a strong will to command a dragon's soul. Perhaps you aren't as powerful as you think. This was not merely a test of voice or blade, but of will, of conviction, of purpose. Why did each fight? What drove them beyond mere survival? What vision of the world justified their claim to power? Blood flowed. Reality cracked. Daedric energies swirled around them as Hermaeus Mora watched through countless floating eyes, the ultimate spectator to the ultimate contest. As the battle reached its crescendo, as both Dragonborn stood bloodied but unbowed, the Prince of Knowledge finally revealed his true design. Tentacles erupted between the combatants, eyes blinking in cold calculation. "Did you think to escape me, Miraak? You can hide nothing from me." The betrayal surprised neither Dragonborn, for both had learned the true nature of Daedric princes, that they are incapable of genuine loyalty, seeing mortals as mere tools for cosmic games beyond comprehension. Miraak's death came not from the last Dragonborn's hand, but from his master's, impaled through the chest by writhing tentacles, held aloft as his life force drained away. This is the only way, Dragonborn, the only way I could be free. As Miraak's body dissolved, his soul flowed not into Hermaeus Mora's collection, but into the last Dragonborn. The ultimate irony, that in death, Miraak achieved what life had denied him. Freedom from all masters through union with his mirror image. The last Dragonborn stood alone at the summit, now carrier of both beginning and end, Alpha and Omega of the draconic bloodline. Hermaeus Mora's voice slithered through the ether already, recalculating, already repositioning. He served me well, but he grew ambitious. Miraak harbored fantasies of rebellion. I knew you would arrive. You too seek knowledge that only I possess. The cycle threatened to repeat. Service, reward, betrayal. Yet something had changed. Through Miraak's absorbed memories, through witnessed betrayal, through hard-won wisdom, perhaps the last Dragonborn might navigate a different path. The question that echoed across Apocrypha's twisted spires was not whether one could escape destiny, but whether destiny itself could be rewritten. Whether the last Dragonborn would succeed where the first had failed, not in accumulating power, but in preserving the free will that divides mortals from the divine. The tale of Miraak echoes through the eras not merely as history, but as warning. The first Dragonborn's journey from priest to rebel to prisoner remains the ultimate cautionary legend of power's corrupting embrace. What separates a Dragonborn from a dragon is not the voice, not the soul, not the blood, but choice. Dragons are bound by their nature, compelled by cosmic design to dominate. A Dragonborn carries this inheritance, yet walks also with mortal free will, the freedom to choose purpose over power, wisdom over dominance. Miraak failed this test. Seeking freedom from all masters, he merely exchanged one form of servitude for another, more insidious bondage. His rebellion against dragons led him into Hermaeus Mora's waiting tentacles. His ambition to rule became the chains of his eternal imprisonment. The last Dragonborn stands at the same crossroads, heir to draconic might, yet burdened with humanity's greatest gift and curse: choice. Will they repeat Miraak's fatal error, or forge a path neither dragons nor Daedra could foresee? For in the end, the true measure of a Dragonborn is not how many souls they devour, but whether they preserve their own. This has been Tales of Tamriel. Subscribe now to delve deeper into the forgotten legends that shape our world.